Chava. Shana Tova, everyone. Gemar Chatima Tova. May today be a meaningful day for all of us. We'll begin our service as we have throughout these holidays as we light a candle connecting all of the lights of our homes to this sanctuary and to each other as our spider web of connections reaches all over our world, certainly all over Akron and Northeast Ohio, but also to friends who we have learned join us because you join us. And so we together today are a family, a community of connections. And we invite you to get your light close to you and prepare to light it with us as I share this prayer written for this year by Alden Sovely. Return to us, Holy One, as we return to you. How I wish to sing in the key of lamentations. How I wish to demand an accounting from you. Without an answer, we will sing today in the key of El Rachum, the key of mercy, as we defiantly declare, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'achianu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh, that we are grateful to have reached this moment, this day of repentance, this day of community. Or Zarua la tzadik ul yishrei lev simcha. Let light be sown for the righteous and gladness for the upright in heart. We begin our service, the words of Ma Tovu, words that remind us that it is nice to look out at each other's tents at the great gathering of the people of Israel. Please make sure you have the right prayer book, the silver Yom Kippur Machzor, as we turn now to page 138 as we begin this morning's service.
Thank you. יתגדל ויגדש מרבה בעלמא דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי בחייכון ויום אחד ובחייך בית ישראל בעגלה ובזמן קריב min kopechata veshirata tushbechata v'nechamata damiran v'yama tushbechata v'nechamata damiran v'yama
Like an unbroken current, energy stems from the source, bathing the planet in light, calling forth light, movement, mind unfolding from matter, the power of love.
And we offer it back to you, our own creative energy, ever dreaming, building, shaping patterns out of chaos, searching out light in the darkness. Creation never ceases, not for an instant. All life is aglow with your light. All things draw sustenance from the source.
Baruch atah Adonai Yotzer HaMeorot.
Our praise to you, Adonai, creator of the lights of heaven.
You are the one who unites all things, who links life to life in a sacred chain.
The forests anchored in the soil breathe air into our lungs.
Our faces are reflected in the creatures of earth. We carry the sea within us.
Our fate is connected to rivers and deserts, our family a many-branched tree of life.
All beings intertwine in you. All are encompassed in Adonai Echad.
Thus, no man is an island, no soul exists apart.
To say Echad is to know this truth, to see the world whole, humankind undivided.
Precious and holy are these words we speak. Adonai Echad, we proclaim you one.
Baruch Ato Adonai, Habocher Biamo, Yisrael Bi'ahava.
Our praise to you, Adonai. You have singled out your people, Israel, with love.
Please be seated and join me in chanting the V'ahavta. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha v'hayu ha'devarim ha'ele asher Anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha u'vlatecha avaderech u'v'shochbecha u'v'kumecha u'kshartam le'ot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha u'ktavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'v'isharecha למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Twice in the last week, I've sat down to try to rest, take my mind out of this space, to look out into the world that doesn't recognize that this is Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur for us, that this is a week set aside. I turned on a comedian, only to find out that he was not going to talk about anything funny. He was quite serious about what is going on in our world outside of these days and outside of our bubbles, about what scares him. I turned on a basketball game to hear an interview with LeBron James for him to talk about what he talks about with his family, with his daughter and wife, with his sons, and not to talk about basketball, even though he was standing on the very court where he had just played. We turn now to our prayer for freedom, our prayer to exit parts of the world that chase after us and scare us. And we remember that this has always been part of our journey. During every service, we share these words. This week, on Yom Kippur, perhaps we hold them a little closer as we know so many are sharing these words with us. You took us out of the darkness, God, so that your light might dwell among us. You showed us your power to bring down the powerful, uplift the enslaved, transform the social order. You showed us your strength so that we might remember our own. We carry the Exodus vision wherever we go, lest we forget our sense of liberation, lest we lose the joy of breathing free, lest we grow indifferent and blind to others' pain. So long as we work to make you present, we walk the path of freedom. But if we forget to bring you into this world, then we return to the darkness. Page 196, our words of freedom, Michamocha.
Shira Chadasha Shebechuvelim לשמך שפת הים, יחד כל עמודו, והמלכו ואמרו, Yisrael, Koma Bezrat Yisrael, Go Aleinu Adonai Tzavot Shamo, Kadosh Yisrael, Baruch At Adonai, Gal Yisrael. Please rise for the Amidah. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi agita hilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avotinu v'imotenu. Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Harorah, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot V'Imahot, U'Mevi Geula Lifnei V'neihem, Lama'an Shemo Be'ahava. Shia Umagai, Baruch Atah Adonai, Baruch Shmo, Magen Avraham ve'Ezrat Sarah, Amen. Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol Atah Rav LaHoshia.
few months ago, a doctor in our congregation was speaking with me about his admiration for Amy Acton. I imagine many of us remember the days when Amy Acton became like our Oprah. We would turn the TV on at 2 o'clock, and there she was to tell us what was going on in our very immediate world. What he admired about her was that she did not do what he called happy talk. She didn't gloss over things. She didn't sweeten up bad news. She simply told us how it was and trusted us to know how to react. Our prayer, the Unetanneh Tokef, does exactly that. It does not parse words. It is harsh. It is honest. It is chilling in its description of the fragility of life, something that we so often this year have been aware of. Before we hear the words chanted by our cantor, I'll share this reading on page 209. Today we call it by its rightful name, a day of dread, Norah Vayom, the unwelcome visitor. For we want to live in a sunny world where God is love and all endings are happy. But the drumbeat sounds and the words tumble down, and even the angels tremble with fear. For all things are judged, and all things will pass, and life ends in a heartbeat, and death knows our name. At the start of the year in this season of truth comes the day of remembrance for all we forgot and all we deny, and we fall on our knees in the depths of our hearts, for we know that the bell tolls for us. The words are old and the language was theirs, but the call is real and the message is ours. Take hold of your life while you still have the chance, for your story will end, and it might be this year in a way you don't know. Take hold of your life. Make things right while you can. And don't miss the call of this day of dread. Unetanneh Tokef in our prayer book, page 209, 210.
He
Page 213. An empty page, an open book. A day, this day of ultimate questions. Will I still be here next year at this time with the ones I love beside me? What is in store for my family, and what will become of my friends? Who will have reason to celebrate? Who will contend with grief? New love, new babies, marriages deepening or breaking apart, prosperity, struggle, reversals of fortune, illness, and health await us. Who will be missing when we gather next? Who will stand apart? Who will be estranged? And who will have joined us, enriching our community? On the edge of the unknown, we tremble. What lies ahead for all of us? An empty page, an open book. Nothing is written and nothing is sealed. Flesh and blood, frail creatures, our lives are fleeting and subject to chance. Yet this we possess, the strength to persist, to prevail, to comfort one another in the dark. Prayer, right action, a turning toward the good, these give us hope and help us bear any pain of life.
Rosh Hashanah, Yikatevun, Uviyom Tzom Kippur, Yom Tzom Kippur, Yikatevun, Uviyom Tzom Kippur, Yom Tzom Kippur, Yikatevun. Berosh Hashanah, Yikatevun, Uviyom Tzom Kippur, Yom Tzom Kippur, Yikatevun, Uviyom Tzom Kippur, Yom Tzom Kippur, Yikatevun. Mi yanuach, mi yanuach, mi yeshokit, mi yetoref, mi yeshalev, mi yatzor, mi yini, mi yasher, mi yeshafel, mi yaron, uteshuva, utavila, utedaka.
Utshuva, utfila, utzdaka, ma'avirin et roa hagazera. Through the return to the right path, through prayer and righteous giving, we can transcend the harshness of the decree. Page 218 through 220. Lador Vador, our reminder at this time of how important it is that we pass on these traditions to those we love, to our children, to the next generation to carry the light ahead. Page 218, Lador Vador. We take this time now to focus on the sanctity of our own lives, and perhaps in particular the moments in which we have fallen short of what we planned for that sanctity to look like in our world and in our homes and with our family and our children and our spouses and our community. Between pages 220 and 250 are a number of traditional prayers and creative readings, all focused on how we set our goals, how we reach for what is sacred. On Yom Kippur, we look at those bars and we wonder, how will we reach for them better this year? We take this time now for our own personal reflection to look on our year before and our year ahead and to set our goals, to see what it is we need to reach for this year. Page 220 to 250, we invite you to use the words in the prayer book or to sit in your homes and take this time for your own personal reflection, offering the words of your heart. Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel defined being religious as a person who holds God and man in one thought at one time, who suffers harm done to others, whose greatest passion is compassion, whose greatest strength is love and the defiance of despair. Avinu Malkeinu is our prayer, where we and God are held in the same moment at the same time, and where we pray that our passion is compassion, and that our strengths are love, and that we can reach out to defy whatever despair is in the world. And so we turn to God, Avinu, as our parent, loving, holding us close, as Malkeinu, as a leader, helping us know what path to take as we open our ark and share the words of this prayer. Page 252, page 253 in our prayer books.
Avinu Malkeinu, Shema Koleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chatanu lefanecha. Avinu Malkeinu, Amaleinu, V'yaleinu, V'tobeinu.
Avinu Malkeinu,
Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, U'odveinu, v'sefer chayim tovim. Avinu Malkeinu, Aviv Shalenu, Aviv Shalenu, Shalom Torah.
Avinu Malkeinu, Chadesh Aleinu, Shana
Avinu Malkeinu, Shema Koleinu, Shema Koleinu, Shema
Avinu Malkeinu, Almighty and merciful, answer us with grace, for our deeds are wanting. Save us through acts of justice and love. We turn now to our Torah service. As we read the words, we will hear the words of Deuteronomy, chapters 29 and 30, and we're honored to invite Kathy Baer to be one of our Torah readers this morning, as well as Cantor Kathy, as we'll share the words of Unetanneh Tokef. It's one of these great moments in Torah, a wedding between us and God. These last few months, there's been an interesting trend that people have looked at the year ahead, realizing that the winter is not going to be an ideal time to get married outside. and they don't want to wait a year. And so in the last few months, rabbis, including myself, I'm sure ministers as well, have noticed that we've been getting phone calls asking, can we get married in a month? Knowing that it won't be the hundreds of people they had planned on having, that they had dreamed of in their wedding perhaps. It will be just a small gathering, an intimate group of people, perhaps just the couple and their parents and a few close friends. With the pandemic in the backdrop, two people making a commitment to each other that their future will be bright is inspiring. We read the Torah portion this way today. It is the largest wedding ever, the marriage of our people and God. We are told that everyone is there, from the wood chopper to the water drawer, everyone in the past, the present, and the future. All of us are there. It was a big bill, and yet it was an intimate moment when we declared that the future would be bright because of the commitment that we were making. We make that commitment again this morning as we look out at the horizon and the year ahead. And once again, when given, as the Torah portion reads, the choice between blessing or curse, between life or death, we choose blessing, we choose life, we choose hope and optimism. As we renew this commitment, we look forward to this year with great hope. Please rise as we take our Torah from the Ark and invite Kathy Baer to be our first reader.
Ein kamocha v'Elohim Adonai, ve'ein kemasicha, malachutecha, malachut kol olamim, u'memshaltecha bechol dur v'dor. Adonai Malach, Adonai Malach, Adonai Malach, le'olam va'id. Adonai uz le'amo yitit. Adonai yivarech et amar shalom. Av harachamim etiv v'tzadcha et Zion. Tivnei chamot Yerushalayim. Tivnei chamot Yerushalayim. Ki v'cha levan batachnu, melech Aaron v'nisa, Adon olamim. Adonai, Adonai.
can find the Torah reading on page 266. As if you would like to follow along in the English, we now invite Kathy Bear to be our Torah reader.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Hambarach, Baruch Adonai Hambarach Le'olam Ba'ed, Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam, Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim, V'natan Lanu et Torato, Baruch Atah Adonai Notein HaTorah. Atem Nitzavim Hayom Kulchem, Lifnei Adonai Elohechem, Rashechem, Shiftechem, Ziknechem, Bashot Rechem, Kol Ish Yisrael, Tapechem, Nishechem, Begerecha, Asher Bekerev Machanecha, Mechotev Eitzecha, Ad Shoev Meimecha, Le'avracha, Bivrit, Adonai Elohecha, Ubalato, Asher Adonai Elohecha, Koreit Imcha Hayom, Lema'an Hakimotecha, Hayom Lo, Le'am, Bahu Yehiyeh Elecha, Le'Elohim, Ka'asher Diber Lach, V'Ka'asher Nishba, La'avotecha, La'Abraham, La'Yitzchak, Ul Yaakov. Below Itchem, Levadechem, Anochi, Koreit et Habarit Hazot, V'et Ha'alah Hazot. Ki et Hasher Yeshno, Ho, Imanu, Omed Hayom, Lifnei Adonai Eloheinu, V'et Asher Einenu, Ho, Imanu Hayom. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam notah b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai notein haTorah.
Baruch hu el Adonai hambarach, Baruch Adonai hambarach le'olam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato, Baruch atah Adonai notein haTorah. V'chaya ki yavo'u elecha kol hadvarim ha'eleh, habracha v'haklala asher natati lefanecha, v'shevota el vavecha b'chol hagadolim asher hidichecha Adonai Elohecha shama, V'shavta ad Adonai Elohecha v'shamata v'cholo kechol asher anochi metzavecha hayom ata uvanecha v'chol lebavcha uv'chol nafshecha. V'shav Adonai Elohecha et shuvutecha v'richamecha v'shav v'kibetzecha mekol ha'amim asher hifitzecha Adonai Elohecha shama. Im yiyeh nidechacha b'ksei hashamayim misham yikibetzecha Adonai Elohecha misham yichachecha. V'hevi'echa Adonai Elohecha el ha'aretz asher yershu avotecha barishta, v'hitivecha v'yirbecha be'avotecha. Umal Adonai Elohecha et levavecha ve'et levav zarecha, le'ahava et Adonai Elohecha v'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha lema'an chayecha. V'natan Adonai Elohecha et kol ha'alot ha'eleh על אונך ועל שונאך אשר רדפוך. ואת תשוב שמעת בכל אדוני, ועשית את כל מצוותיו, אשר אנוכי מצווך היום. והותירך אדוני אלוהיך בכל מעשה ידיך, בפרי בטנך ובפרי בהמתך, ובפרי אדמך לטובה, כי ישוב אדוני לסוס לך לטוב, כאשר שש על אבותיך. כי תשמע בכל אדוני אלוהיך לשמור מצוותיו וחוקותיו הכתובה בספר התורה הזה, כי תשוב על אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
With our story out before us, with the strength of both Cantor Kathy and Kathy Bear having shared that story with us by chanting our Torah, we turn to those in our lives who, through their strength and through the care of their loved ones and doctors and nurses, they have extended their story, perhaps beyond what we expected. Before we offer our prayer for those who are ill, our Misha Berach, at the holidays, we offer a prayer for those who have come through an illness, and we offer our profound thanks. We learned that Rav Judah said, "Who is to offer thanksgiving? Those who've completed an arduous voyage, those who've recovered from an illness or injury, prisoners who've been set free." In the midst of this congregation, we honor those who've come through times of challenge, through difficulty or danger. If you are mourning a loss, if you've changed a career, if you have become healthy after an illness, if you've sat by a loved one, perhaps virtually this year, we invite you to rise in this moment as we celebrate your resilience and your survival, as we give thanks for the resilience of the body, the strength of the human spirit, for the precious gift of life experienced with new intensity when life has been at risk. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hagomel l'chavim tovim shagam lanu kol tov. Blessed are you, our eternal God, whose majesty fills the universe, and through your generosity we have experienced goodness, as we all say. Amen. And now we turn to offer our prayer for those who are in need of healing. Mishaberach Avotenu v'Imotenu Avraham Yitzhak v'Yaakov. May we find that the strength of our ancestors finds its way to those who are in need of healing. As you think of those loved ones in your life, the people whom we know at this time and during this year are in need of our strength, we wish for them a refuah shlema, a full sense of healing, a healing of body, a healing of mind, and a healing of their spirit, as we look forward to the day when we can offer a blessing of recovery for them as well. Feel free to add the names of any of those who you are thinking of at this moment into our chat if you have joined us online on a platform that allows that, or to say their names aloud as we take this moment to focus on healing. May the one who brought blessings to our fathers Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to our mothers Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bring the blessing of health, to all of those whom we know who are ill. May the Holy One, blessed source of life and healing, sustain and strengthen them with compassion. Restore them to full health without delay. For all who struggle against illness, let renewal of spirit and renewal of body come soon. As we say, Amen. Please rise now as we raise our Torah and prepare to dress it. The words of Azot HaTorah.
V'zot HaTorah asher sa Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael. Abi Adonai b'yad Moshe. La 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 la, la 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 la, la la
We remain standing as we turn to page 296 for the words of Ashamnu. Words that call us to touch our heart. We invite you to respond, as I will, to the cantor's chanting. Page 296.
Ay, 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 Ashamnu,
Ashamnu,
Bagadnu,
Bagadnu,
Gazalnu,
Gazalnu,
Dibarnu Dofi,
Dibarnu Dofi,
ay, 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 Evinu,
Evinu,
Behir Shanu,
Behir Shanu,
Zanu,
Zahadnu,
Hamasnu,
Hamasnu,
Tafanu Shekir,
Tafanu Shakir,
ay, 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 Yatznu Ra,
Yatznu Ra,
Kizavnu,
Kizahavnu,
Lotznu,
Lahatznu,
Maradnu,
Marahadnu,
Niatznu,
Niahatznu,
Sararnu,
Saraharnu,
Avinu,
Avihinu,
Hashanu,
Hashahanu,
Sararnu,
Saraharnu,
Ishinu Ori,
Ishinu Ore,
ay, 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 ay,
Tichatnu.
Tiavnu.
Tianu.
Tainu.
Tainu.
Titanu.
Of these wrongs we are guilty. We betray, we steal, we scorn, we act perversely, we are cruel, we scheme, we are violent, we slander, we devise evil, we lie, we ridicule, we disobey. We abuse, we defy, we corrupt, we commit crimes. We are hostile, we are stubborn, we are immoral, we kill. We spoil, we go astray, we lead others astray. Page 300. Al chet shachatanu lefanecha ba'ones uvratzon, v'al chet shachatanu lefanecha b'yod'im uvlo yod'im. The ways we have wronged you under duress and by choice, and harm we have caused in your world consciously and unconsciously. Al chet shachatanu lefanecha bivli da'at, v'al chet shachatanu lefanecha biratzat raglaim lahara. The ways we've wronged you through our thoughtlessness and harm, we've caused in your world through impulsive acts of malice. Al chet shachatanu lefanecha b'chozek yad, v'al chet shachatanu lefanecha b'zilzul horim umorim. The ways we've wronged you by abusing our power and harm, we've caused in your world through disrespect to parents and to teachers. Al chet shachatanu lefanecha b'yetzer hara, v'al chet shachatanu lefanecha b'kishot oref. The ways we've wronged you by giving in to our hostile impulses, and harm we've caused in your world through inflexibility and stubbornness. Al chet shachatanu lefanecha b'chachash uvchazav, v'al chet shachatanu lefanecha b'kalot rosh. The ways we've wronged you through lies and deceit, and harm we've caused in your world by making light of serious matters. Al chet shachatanu lefanecha b'siach sotenu, v'al chet shachatanu lefanecha b'tzrut ayin. The ways we've wronged you in our routine conversations, and harm we've caused in your world through envy. V'al chet shachatanu lefanecha, v'al kulam Elohai slichot, salach lanu machal lanu, kalper lanu. For all these failures of judgment and will, God of forgiveness, forgive us, pardon us, and lead us to atonement. Please be seated now as we take a moment for our own silent confession. Feel free to use the words of the Machzor or to take this time to reflect personally. Two men are driving on the highway in suburban New Jersey. They are in a beautiful car together. For the car buffs out there, it's an orange 1969 Lamborghini Miura. For the non-car buffs, that's Italian for a really fast and a really sexy car. What makes this drive a little more interesting is that the man driving the car is well-known Jewish comedian Jerry Seinfeld, and the man sitting in the passenger seat is the well-known black comedian Chris Rock. What makes the story even more interesting is that while filming this episode of Seinfeld's show Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee, Seinfeld's lead foot gets them pulled over for admittedly speeding in the most visible car in suburban Jersey. But what makes this a story for today, for Yom Kippur, are the looks, the vastly different looks that appear on their faces while these two men are sitting in the same car, having the same experience. Both men take the police stop seriously, but Seinfeld seems clearly relaxed. Chris Rock does not. One can tell in the video that he is uncomfortable at best. To me, he looks like someone in the moments before a terrible diagnosis. On that day, everything was okay. The policeman was professional. The policeman was right to pull them over. They were speeding. The cameras were off during their interaction, but they turn back on when they get back on the road. Chris Rock turns to Jerry and says, "Here's the crazy thing. If you weren't here in this car with me, I'd be scared. I'm famous," he says, "but I'm still black." I'm not here today to talk about racism or police brutality. Yom Kippur is not just a Black Lives Matter day or a Blue Lives Matter day, a red day or a blue day, a liberal day or a conservative day. Yom Kippur is our day. Our day to remind ourselves that the Jewishness of our lives matters in our world. And it doesn't just matter to us. It is an important piece to this world we live in. When Chris Rock turned to Jerry Seinfeld and said, "I'm glad you are here," I'm sure he was not referring to Jerry Seinfeld's Jewishness. But I am. It matters that Jerry Seinfeld is Jewish. It matters because that fact alone means that he understands a history of prejudice. It matters because he knows that today in the 21st century, with all the progress that we have made, that we still see anti-Semitism and hate. It matters because whether we are comedians or activists, preachers or professors, we have listened year after year to the words of Yom Kippur, which tell us that it doesn't matter who we are in this world. What matters is what we do in this world, in the time we are given. Aseh imanu tzedakah v'chesed v'hoshienu, the words we just heard. We are saved through our actions of tzedek v'chesed, of justice and love. We are saved by what we do and what we proclaim we will do in the future. Chris Rock may not have known that he was sitting next to someone so qualified to be in the car with him. But we know. We know what those qualifications are. And today reminds us that the Jewish nature of our lives should matter. That what we do with them should matter to us and to others. We must cling to what I think of as our Jewish superpower, our ability to see the world in ways others do not, our ability to respond in ways others cannot, and our ability to balance out our world in ways others will not. Our Jewishness matters in this moment because we are a people who cross borders and boundaries, whose identity cannot be described in one word. We have always been an and people, Jewish and German, Jewish and American, Jewish and Israeli. Authors David Bialy, Michael Galchinsky, and Susanna Heschel say that for much of Jewish history, what it meant to be a Jew was to be multilingual and multicultural and never to live in splendid isolation from the interaction and struggle with other cultures. The Jewish aspect of our lives matters in this moment because we are in a polarized period in society. Perhaps the most polarized time in society for most of us in our lives. Our world is divided by politics, by values, by the very news we read, and the silos we live in. And we are the people who have always crossed boundaries. And we are the people who know as well as anyone what happens when others will not. About 6 months ago, Larry Kay, a past president of this congregation, loaned me a book that has been passed down through his family. Larry doesn't believe that I read the book. He will now. The book is a compilation of stories from a small village of Antopol, which was at one time in Poland and is now in Belarus. It is what is called a yahrzeit book, a book that tells stories of the Jews who lived in Antopol when it was a richly Jewish town, a town whose 3,000 Jews at its peak made up 90% of the population. I read through these stories, and I came to realize that they're written strangely, because they're written without an ending. There was no moral that explained why the story was told. The purpose of the story was seemingly an unfinished book, as if chapters had not been written. And especially because this book came from a member of our congregation, I came to realize that those chapters that are not written, those are our chapters. The yahrzeit book, it's an earlier chapter of our story. In this case, specifically Larry's family story. But whether you are Ashkenazi or Sephardi, a Jew by choice, or one of those Jews who never had a choice, Antopol is a part of us. It is a part of us because we would not be who we are had stories like this not been our earlier chapters. In one of the accounts, the educational system is explained. Antopol was too small to maintain its own school, so the kids took a horse and buggy to a nearby town where there was a combined Jewish school. Sometimes, the author writes, in order to get back and forth to school, the Jewish students had to hitch a ride with a buggy driver who was not Jewish. They sat in their version of a car together. But it seems it did not matter. Antopol was still desecrated by Nazis, and the surrounding villagers were either unable to stop the destruction or unable to care enough to notice. In another account, when the Jewish community started to take up arms to protect themselves, they gathered in the synagogue to discuss how they would defend their homes and stores from pogroms. While they were meeting, the police surrounded the synagogue, having heard that they were gathered to cause trouble. The police chief knocked on the door, entered the synagogue, spoke with the people. He realized that they were not trying to incite any violence. They were just trying to protect their homes and businesses. And he made sure that the pogroms did not destroy Jewish life that day. We are uniquely qualified for this moment in our history, in American history, because we have been the other passenger in that car. We have been the people who held our breath when authorities knocked on our door, exhaling only when they allowed us to. We know the difference between the righteous Gentile and the indifferent one. We know the difference between the police who ask what you are doing first before they come through the door with guns blazing. The difference, as Yom Kippur says, is the choice of life or death. We of all people know that. How then can we not see what happened to Breonna Taylor with Jewish eyes? Sleeping in her bed, No one knocked on the door before shots were fired. We see that differently because we've seen that before. With our Jewish eyes, we've seen it all before. As Ecclesiastes says, we've seen all the oppressions practiced under the sun, and we know it's wrong. The law might not see it that way, but our eyes, of all the eyes out there, they should see it clearly. It is wrong, and we shouldn't be quiet about that fact. Arthur Hertzberg, of blessed memory, a rabbi in our tradition, comments in our very Machzor that this is exactly what our chosenness is. It is a chosenness that guarantees we live unquiet lives, a chosenness that knows not to be timid, not to live in fear. That is what makes us a chosen people. The privilege to speak up. Our history, our stories, the unfinished chapters of the book that we are still writing. And it's our present. I do not profess to know what it feels like to be a black man today. But as a Jewish American in the 21st century, I do know that a church in Charleston has something in common with a synagogue in Pittsburgh. Racism and anti-Semitism are complex topics, each with a unique thumbprint. But in America today, that thumbprint comes from the hand of the increasingly strengthened fist of hate. I hope you all received the gift boxes we sent out last week. They had a muffin and some honey and our candle. But in our early discussions, we thought about sending a few other things in preparation for the holidays, things that you would need particularly this year. And we talked about sending everyone a mask with the temple logo on it and maybe a Hebrew phrase. I liked the idea of putting the words l'chaim to life, as if every time you saw somebody, you were raising a glass and saying cheers, a Jewish smile, if you will. Unfortunately, it was not surprising when we heard the feedback that while people would welcome a mask, that many, if not most, would not feel comfortable wearing something that identified them as Jewish in public. We carry the privilege of wearing our Jewish identity. We can put it on and take it off, but we also know the burden of not being seen. Many of you know that Copley Fairlawn schools returned to in-person learning today on Yom Kippur. I have no doubt that it was an honest oversight in an excessively challenging year. And it is not tragic. It is unfortunate. It is a reminder of what we know that others do not. That the goal is not for Jews to blend in so much that we are invisible. The goal of minority communities is to be valued for our uniqueness and to be valued equally. I was frustrated because my daughter would have to live with a little extra anxiety as she starts middle school. We were scared to wear a mask that hinted that we were Jewish. I've turned off the TV when the kids were in the room and the Tree of Life synagogue tragedy comes on the news. And we've all probably had to explain what hell is or is not a little earlier than most of our friends do to their children, in case one of our children's friends says something hurtful. All of that pales in comparison to watching a police officer kneel on a man's neck for 8 minutes, 46 seconds. Or watching a man hunted because he's out for a jog, simply because he's black. There is an ocean of difference between the anti-Semitism my children will experience and the racism we know their peers of color will face. And so I cannot begin to imagine how the images of George Floyd or Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery impact children who see themselves so easily in those images, who look at the TV and then look at their parents. What I can imagine is how it will impact my children and your children most of the children in this congregation who are Caucasian and Jewish. Not all of them, but most. Conductor and composer Herbert Zipper, of blessed memory, was known for forming a secret orchestra to play while he was held at Dachau under Nazi occupation. The instruments that they played were made out of random boxes and strings that he found laying around on the floor. As an adult, he conducted symphony orchestras in New York, Chicago, and Los Angeles. Near the end of his life, Maestro Zipper was interviewed and asked, "What is your most important goal? What has been your most important goal throughout your life?" He smiled gently and said with confidence, "My ambition is to be a good ancestor. One day, no sooner than tomorrow, our children are going to ask us, what did we do? What did we do when people of color were being killed for no reason?" I hope and pray that we will be able to answer them quickly and with confidence. We did what Jews do. We joined the journey. We listened. We came to understand what it feels like to be in their seat in America as best we can. And then we did something about it. Some of us will march, some will speak out. But those are not the only actions. Jerry Seinfeld did not have to say a word, and he did everything. Chris Rock credits him for making him feel safe, and all he did was sit there. We simply need to be there wherever there is and make sure our eyes and our ears are open, and that too is taking action. Let us translate this moment. We see it differently, not as liberals or conservatives, not in the realm of politics at all, for it exists in the realm of humanity, and that we see as Jews, and we can see it clearly. We are the people who cross boundaries, the people who live in between, the people who put German and Polish and Hebrew together to make Yiddish, Spanish and Turkish and Hebrew together to make Ladino. Perhaps more famously, we put noodles and cream cheese and apricot preserves together to make kugel. We are the people who have always been willing to bridge the gap, to find a way, to split the sea. So let's use that gift. Yom Kippur, it is here to remind us that our lives, our Jewish voices make a difference to those who don't matter enough in society today. Our Jewishness matters because it is a gift that puts us in the car where we know what to do. Let's translate this moment. It is what we are good at. It is what we were chosen to do, and it is whom Yom Kippur asks us to be. Tomorrow you will receive an email from me. It is a playlist of podcasts and videos and books that you can put in your car, on your TV, or place on your nightstand. Choose to listen to one, choose to listen to them all. My request is that you listen with the clarity of your Jewish ears and read with your Jewish eyes. Do so, and I know the next step will be obvious to you. As it was for generations of Jews who came before us, as we've seen so much throughout this year, as people in this congregation and in this community and across our country have felt their Jewish hearts beat stronger, have seen the gift that we have to be present in this moment and have a unique voice, a voice that has the ability to help others feel safe. Gemar Chatima Tova. May our fast on this day be meaningful. May it make us uncomfortable, aware of the world around us, the vulnerabilities that others experience every day. And may it remind us of how we as a Jewish people are made for this moment, because this moment matters. And what we, the Jewish people, do in this moment, that too matters. Gamar Chatima Tova, may we all find that we are sealed for goodness in the year to come. And may we find Shalom Rav, that peace, because of our presence, increases.
Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Yatahu melech Adam v'chol ha'shalom. Yatahu melech Adam v'chol ha'shalom. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam V'tuv b'einecha levarich et Amcha Yisrael v'tamim b'chol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. ברוך אתה אדוני המברך את עמו ישראל. השלום
Traditionally, the Yom Kippur morning service, like those stories in the book about Antopol, really has no ending as this day continues. We do have a couple quick announcements. There is hiking at 1 p.m. today at Kendall Ledges. Groups of families will be joining there. If you would like to go for a walk, please look for the grouping. I believe Shauna Reyes-Leff will be there helping to lead a little bit. But a number of people enjoyed apple picking on Rosh Hashanah, and so at the last minute we decided for a family activity, if the weather holds out, that some people would like to go for a Yom Kippur hike. You're welcome to bring your dogs. The afternoon service is at 2 o'clock is the social justice speaker. At 4 o'clock is the afternoon service. 5 o'clock is the Yizkor service. 6:30 is the Ne'ilah service, which we had planned to be in the parking lot, but unfortunately, looking at the weather report, it looks as though that is not going to be a good idea. So we are sorry that we will not be able to gather in person in our parking lot this evening. We will be live streaming right from here in our sanctuary. That, of course, means that when you look out your window at 6:30, the sun will be shining, all of the weather will have changed, and we will have been wrong. But it's Yom Kippur, and so we'll still be able to repent for a few more minutes, and we will definitely be dry. We want to thank immensely, which we forgot to do last night, the Kay Silverman and Mark's families for providing our flowers this morning that you see behind me and that were at the Torah table. Thank you for beautifying our sanctuary so that everyone who tuned in could see the white flowers as a sign of what it feels like to be here and a sign of the new year to come, the clean slates that we get. Please see the many people that we are thankful for as well. As I conclude the comments in a moment, we have shared their names on the screen. For the many people who've supported us, the volunteers, the donor funds, the people who have helped to read Torah, our musicians, our technology team, we thank everybody who has helped us to make these holidays as accessible as they can be. One quick word on the 2 o'clock speaker. Eric Ward is an expert. We're lucky this year to be able to partner with 2 other synagogues, Fairmount Temple and Temple Israel in Dayton, Ohio. And Eric Ward is speaking with those 3 congregations. You can join through Zoom if you registered, or you can join through Fairmount Temple's live stream or on our Facebook. I don't know if are we streaming it in other places? Yes, possibly. No. So go to Fairmount Temple's live stream. It's on their website. That'll be the best way to join if you didn't pre-register. And we will be able to ask questions and speak with Eric Ward. He's an expert in white supremacy, anti-Semitism, and racism. And he's going to talk about this particular moment in American history and where we go from here. So we hope that you will join us as we continue that tradition of Yom Kippur afternoon being a time for us to focus on what is happening in the world outside the walls of our synagogue. Gemar Chatima Tova to everyone. May this day be a challenging day, but a meaningful day. May we enter into the year with our heads held high and our sights set on new goals to achieve. Yizkor's at 5 o'clock. I'm told I didn't say that. Yizkor will be at 5 o'clock live streamed. Sorry, I didn't mention that. Thank you all.